Hey guys, welcome to Troy Time. Check it out. We got a good one today. We're going to talk about how to auto water plants, okay? I'm going to show you a way to do it for free, all right? I'm going to show you a way. This way has helped me so much already. It's saved me so much time, so much hassle, and it can do the same for you. So if you've been following along with my channel, I know you're going to like what we're doing today. We're going to be doing an auto watering system. Super simple, super effective. Let's check it out. All right, guys, we've already been doing auto watering with the green sprouting lids, right? And that's perfect for small quantities of various different types of things that you're growing. But we want something for large quantities, all uniform one thing. We want something that's going to work with our plates, okay? It's one of my go-to planting methods. I love the green and white trays. They work awesome in a lot of systems, and they're really going to do wonders for us, especially on our 1 square foot grow rack. That's really where I like to use them. We're going to be covering some of that very shortly coming up. That's where we're going to be moving to after this. But I was really looking for a solution that would allow me to water my plates, right? My green and white trays, especially my plate lettuce, right? We're going to show you how to auto water the super simple, easy way, and it's highly effective. It takes all the guesswork out. It's going to be auto calibrating in the same way that the green sprouting lids were, okay? So check it out. Let's see what we got. Okay, so here is the green sprouting lid that we've been using. And like I said, this works great for smaller quantities of things with lots of variety of different types of things that you're growing. But we do want to do stuff for a much bigger volume, okay? So I started looking at this conceptually. When I look at it, what we have on our auto watering system I've already talked about is a elevated mesh tray with a reservoir attached to it. So taking that concept forward, I wanted to see how could we apply that to our larger tray. Well, when you really look at the green and whites, we've already got an elevated mesh tray. So could it be as simple as just simply adding a reservoir on top of it? That was my first thought. So let's see how that worked out. Guys, I wish I had that footage because that would have made some awesome blooper roll footage. Essentially what I did is I filled up a quart mason jar full of water, and I hovered it above a green and white mesh tray, and I quickly flipped the jar over and thus poured a whole quart of water onto my kitchen floor. So that did not work at all. So you don't want to do that. The solution is you're going to need some sort of lid. So if you've got a full mason jar like this here, you can't just flip it over onto the tray. That's not going to work out well for you. Trust me, I know. Common sense told me I should have known that beforehand, but don't do that, okay? The solution is just to have a simple lid. We're going to use just a regular mason jar lid. We've got a wide mouth mason jar, so we're going to use a wide mouth mason jar lid, and then when we hold the lid on it and flip it over, all the water stays in place and it works out perfectly. Not spilling a drop. It worked out awesome. I was super pleased. So going forward, we're going to use that lid. You can also use the lid when it's time to remove it. As you'll see, you basically just can slide it right underneath it, and then you can pull it out. So that worked out awesome, and I love how that worked out. But it did lead us to one further problem, and that is that the weight of the water combined with the weight of the jar is very heavy. So when it sits on the mesh tray, the mesh does wilt, it does sag because it is flexible. And so when it does that, it kind of changes the level of the water, and the level will actually be too low, okay? So what we need to do is we need to find a solution so that it's actually that calibrated water level that we want, so that it's right at the level of the mesh. Ideally, we want all of our seeds to sit there with water sort of as the medium, where the bottom half of the seed is in the water and the top half of the seed is not. That's perfection. That's what we're looking for, and that's what this method can do once we figure out how to solve this sag in the plate. So how we're going to solve that sag is super simple. We're just going to use a brace from underneath, okay? What I'm going to use is, first, is a lid, a mason jar rim, I should say. And that's going to go under the white mesh to support it. Originally, since I was using a wide mouth mason jar, I used a wide mouth rim. And that will work. However, if the jar moves just to the side and just a tiny little bit, it becomes pretty unstable and it can rock back and forth and possibly tip over. So that's not my favorite method, although it will work. What I really like is using a narrow mouth rim. By using the narrow mouth rim, the jar encompasses it and it actually kind of helps center it and stabilize it, and it works out perfect. The water level here, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but the water level is absolutely perfect. It's just perfectly calibrated to be right where that mesh meets the surface. And so that's exactly what you want. Like we talked about, we want the bottom half of your seed to be in the water and the top half of the seed to be not. All right, so this has already been incredibly useful for me. I've grown a ton of stuff on these plates, right? Different greens, different lettuces, all sorts of different things, seed starting. And it's always a challenge in the beginning to make sure you don't overwater and don't underwater. That's always difficult to make that sort of judgment call. But with the auto watering system now, it's just perfect all the time. I've grown just huge amounts of plate lettuce. I love the plate lettuce. And now you can grow plate lettuce like this and only touch it twice. You'll touch it once when you plant it and once when you transfer it, and that's it. And so you can transfer it to different tubs. We'll show you that in the future, or you can leave it on the plate and only touch it like maybe 3 times as you refill the auto water. But yeah, a plate like that and only touch it twice, it's amazing, guys. So it makes a huge difference. If you haven't followed my channel, you might not see how much of a big deal this is, but guys that have been watching know that these plates are capable of awesome stuff that you're seeing here. All right, so those plates can really do a ton, especially for our 1 square foot grow rack. So it's going to be completely awesome for that. So here's my latest batch where I've grown just some lettuce. This is some romaine that we've grown with the autofill. I've just pulled the jar off. You can see here in this next picture where the jar was at, but I didn't even touch it. I planted it. This is like 10 days later and it's doing awesome. I way overplanted this batch because I seriously thought some of it would drown, but it didn't. So I would plant my next batch much lighter. So this automatic method of watering is going to be useful in so many different things. We've seen it all the plates that we've done with the greens, but we can also do it with the microgreens. You all have seen me do so many different microgreens on these plates, the big plates, the little plates, and you can use that automatic watering system to have it just be perfect. You need no medium this way. It's super clean and it's just repeatable and reliable, so it makes it great. Additionally, you can do it with seed starts. Here, I'm showing a few different stages. We've got some cucumbers in the front and I believe some cabbage in the back, and you can see the water's just right there, right at the perfect level. They're sprouting, they're growing fine. Everything's germinating, everything's popping and doing what it's supposed to do. These automatic watering things are awesome. Here's some flowers, some different flowers. Some of them have popped, some of them haven't, but they're just in different stages. But that automatic watering method just makes that water level perfect. It's not going to drown the plant and the plant's not going to dry out. Yeah, so lastly, I'll just leave you with this because I did mention that you could do this for free, and you absolutely can. So it's just a concept. There's nothing special about the mason jar and the rim and the lid, although I do like those. Those are my preferred method. But you can use anything. Here I'll show you we're using just 2 knives as a bottom surface to balance the mason jar on. So anything, you could use a rock, you could use anything, anything you have in your home that just is a flat surface about that height. So there we're using 2 knives, so you could use that. Here we've got a mason jar, but instead of a lid, we're just using a cutting board. I'm not being real careful, but I'm just trying to show the concept here. I probably could have done that a little cleaner, but it works. It absolutely works. And then here, instead of using the mason jar, we're just going to use a regular old cup. All right, just like that. Slide it right off the cutting board, and there you go. All right. Again, I'm a little sloppy here, so maybe I'd clean that water up just a little bit with like a turkey baster, but you get the idea. Any items will work as long as you follow that concept. A raised mesh tray, some sort of lid, and some sort of reservoir. And so mainly what I really love this on, you can do this for so many things, guys. The microgreens, obviously, those will work great. Mostly I'm loving the plate lettuces and the plate greens. You can do these and only touch them twice. You'll harvest this much in 28 days off a single plate, and all you have to do is touch them once with this reservoir when you plant them, and then you can either maybe do the reservoir maybe 2 to 3 times, 1 or 2 other times total, or you can put them in a tub and only have to touch them twice, and then have a beautiful harvest like this here. And we're going to show you that, putting it into a tub and things like that coming down the road here real quick. But I love the lettuces. I think the greens, the high density greens and lettuces are probably the most important thing to grow. I love growing them. They're one of my favorite things. And now you can grow stuff like this in minimal time, in minimal space, and now with minimal effort. Automatic watering them and only touching them twice. So hopefully you understand how powerful that is. That's going to work for our greens. That's going to work for our microgreens. And even with our seed starting, it makes seed starting just perfect. You're not going to mess it up. They're not going to get too dry. They're not going to drown. If you overwater seeds, normally they'll drown. If you underwater them, they'll dry out. And you can do this with no medium. So you don't need dirt in your house. You don't need coco coir. You don't want all those, bug infestations that come along with that, or messes that come along with that, or just the cost that comes along with that. Using the automatic method and just using it in this manner is so perfect. It's so reliable. It's been working really, really great. So I do like the green seed starting lids for smaller varieties, but for the plate stuff, man, the mason jar, on the green and white trays is the way to go for just high volume, getting a lot of food and just barely even having to touch it to get it done. So hopefully that comes through. I'm glad you guys are here. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. There's always more stuff coming, guys. I got a bunch of videos in the queue. I'm trying my best to get them to you. This is Troy Time. We will talk to you very soon. Thanks for being here. Good to have you. This is Troy Time. I'm out.